Danielle Cook is a professional nutritionist and a cooking instructor, and Adrienne Cook is a gardening and cooking writer. We're excited to have them with us today for our live online cooking demonstration all about fall recipes. So please welcome Danielle and Adrienne.
Hi! We can feel the love. It's just coming through. This is so cool. Well, as we're lining up for getting ready for Thanksgiving.
Yes. Everybody, I'm Danielle Cook, my sister Adrienne Cook.
That's right.
And we are the Cook Sisters.
Yes, we are.
That is what we do. We love to cook. And we are bringing you the kind of holiday, step into holiday planning and a couple of really wonderful fall recipes.
And these are ones that you can use all, not just in the fall, but all through the winter. I mean, they're great.
Oh, yeah.
And the ingredients are going to be available for the next many months, at least until spring. And so hopefully you'll get a lot of use out of them. They are fun. The first one is going to be?
The first one, they're not only, before we jump into what we're doing, these are a great use of fall vegetables, root vegetables. We're going to be doing a gratin with celeriac. And so a lot to talk about with that.
Yeah. And
potato. There can be substitutes to those two vegetables. Well, you would want to stick with the potato, but we'll talk about that as we get into it. And then the wonderful desserts. So I guarantee you, crowd pleasers. And as Adrienne said, you can be making these right through the winter and find lots of good uses for both of them. But also, one of the reasons I wanted to bring them to you today, these two, is that these are good do-ahead recipes.
Yeah.
You can prep different parts of it. You can actually cook it off entirely a day early if you want, or have it ready to go. So I'm not saying you got to use this on your Thanksgiving table, but, it might be just good enough to warrant that.
Okay.
So I'm going to switch over to our overhead camera so you can actually see what's going on here. And we will start with the gratin. And that is going to be a combination of our celery root and potatoes and some yummy cream and lots of yummy cream and cheese.
Right.
You can't have a gratin without cream and cheese.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
So, Adrienne, I want you to start by peeling.
Oh, peel it.
I want you to peel these potatoes. And we're using a pound of potatoes and a pound of celery root. And I'm going to attack the celery root. So let's talk about that for a second. If you haven't seen a celery root in all of its wonderful organic beauty, here it is. Similar to celery with stalks, you can see the stalks here. However, these are not as tasty as the regular stalk celery. This is grown, it's like a cousin, would you say?
It's definitely a cousin, yes.
Yeah, so it's grown for its root bulb. And as you can see, it's got a rather gnarly root base.
It's the same concept as parsley root.
Right, and I'm sure, depending on where you're joining us from, certain areas, parts of the world use parsley root much more readily than we do here in the Mid-Atlantic for whatever reason. But okay, so this has been pulled up from the ground, and a lot of the roots have already been, the real gnarly stuff has been removed. So how do you deal with something like this? Normally, maybe not normally, but more commonly, let's say, you're going to see the celery root in the supermarket looking like this without the branches. These, we were discussing this earlier, do have a use. I find them to be overly bitter, and I'm not a big fan of using them in like soups or chopping them up and sauteing them. But Adrienne does think that that's not a bad use of this.
You could use, if you're making celery soup, they can go right in there. But I have to agree that some of them can be very bitter. So taste them. Taste one of the stalks and see what you think. And then decide whether or not you want to use it.
Absolutely. You do need to taste them.
They're totally edible.
Now, sometimes at farmers markets, you're going to find celery root that is much more pale than this. It's almost going to be, more similar in pallor to a Yukon. And if they're if the outer flesh is very pale and clean and smooth, there actually is no need to peel. And many people don't peel celery root.
In France, they use the whole thing.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to go ahead and peel today because this is a peel dish. And I want to just stay close to what is directed in your recipe. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and, this is over a pound. So I'm going to just go right down the middle, and we're going to use most of it. I'm going to actually cut down the middle so we can take a look at what's inside. And yes, it's dense, but it's
this
not.
This is good. That's a really good one.
Yeah.
A lot of times they'll have some dried flesh inside here.
Yes. Yeah. Well, this is nice and moist, and it's real fresh. But yeah, sometimes when you pop it open, you will see kind of a hole in the middle there. But this, it smells exactly like celery, and tastes just like celery, and it's a wonderful, wonderful root vegetable to be using. You can chunk it and roast it and so forth. Okay, so now we're going to get on with our cleaning and our chopping of celery root. So I like to use a very good sharp paring knife for this, and basically I'm just going to follow the shape of the celery root and clear off as much of the gnarly stuff as I can. And you can try this with a peeler, but it does require, it's pretty much a challenge.
Right kind of peeler.
Yeah, if you have a right kind of peeler, which would be what? What do you think is
the right? Well, a wide peeler probably would work, and if you have not the small one like this, but like this one is maybe too small, I think. Don't you think?
Well, I mean, you could try. Yeah,
I've got one that's quite large that has a much larger part.
Is it the kind that's got the handle to the other side, so you just?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I love those. I've got one of those too, which I can show you after I'm done with this. And I love that one because it works really well on winter squash. If you're going to peel winter squash, which we're not going to talk about, that's because we got enough to cover for today, and that's a whole subject in and of itself. Do you peel or peel winter squash?
So celeriac is full of great nutrition, isn't it?
Well, similar to
potassium, like potatoes do. Sorry.
Yes.
That's your region. That's your area of expertise.
Region.
You need to talk
Okay,
about
so let me just say one thing quickly here.
Okay.
This does work great as a celery flavoring in stock.
Yes.
So you don't necessarily have to toss it or compost it, just as a FYI. But the health benefits very much like regular branch celery because these are root vegetables. They're absorbing or growing with whatever is the good minerals in the soil, and those are minerals that we need. Now, this also is a good source of potassium, but mostly it's an incredibly good source of fiber. It's a very fibrous, as you can see as I'm kind of working this through here. Okay, we've got one little area right here that needs to kind of come out. So let's just take a look. We are in pretty good shape here. I wouldn't worry too much. I would just probably dig those out when I cube this. And Adrienne's potatoes are pretty much all cubed. She's done little cubes, and I'm going to match that because we want these kind of equal size, even though we're gonna do a rough mash of them once they're cooked. But the smaller the cubing, and let me just borrow your pan so our viewers can see. The smaller the cubes, the more quickly this will cook up. And so just know that you want to be consistent. Why are we using 2 pots and not 1 pot for these?
Good question.
Can you answer that, Adrienne?
Because they cook at different rates.
That's correct. They cook at different rates.
Okay.
So
I'm going to put some water in this, okay?
Cover it in water.
Okay.
And then we're going to get that on the cooktop. And now I'm doing what I call the kind of lazy I'm trying to get as much chopped in as few strokes as possible. So I've piled these slices up pretty high. And now into here. Okay. And we'll just finish that off. So roughly equal amounts of both of these, right, is what is recommended. So celery root does keep very well in your refrigerator. So if you're not going to use it all, you would want to wrap this tightly because it will discolor once it hits the air. If you're not using it up right away, you want to minimize the contact with the air because it will oxidize. So I would put it either in a baggie or some saran wrap and then stick it in your fridge. And, you know, it'll hold up fine for what, like 10 days?
Oh, yeah, easily.
Yeah.
And, you know, they're great raw also. You can put them in salad.
Oh, my gosh. The celery remoulade. Yes.
Yeah,
You can julienne them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're so raw or cooked.
You can throw those in. Those are fun.
Well, it's got a kind of, all right. It's got a little bit of more of a root than I wanted, but that's okay. That one I'm going to use for soup. Okay. So these now will get covered in water. We're going to parboil them till they're soft. They'll take about 15 to 20 minutes, depending on the density of them. So,
and we're not going to bother putting salt in them, right?
You can, actually. That's fine. You're going to need to salt the gratin. So, you know, you can sprinkle a little kosher salt in there if you like. That's entirely fine. But just go easy because the potatoes especially really do absorb a lot of the salt very, very, very readily.
But they also, it really brings out the flavor too. So that's what I tend to. I like to put salt in the water if it's not for somebody who's struggling with, you know, with salt problems or, you know, not if you've got issues with your heart or whatever and you don't want to, that's fine. You can definitely do it without salt.
Yeah.
But I tend to put salt in my, it's a good way to get it kind of a baseline.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to add a lot after that.
Yeah. Okay. So step in here because the next thing we're going to do while that is boiling. So if you're you know, when you're making this, you get that stuff going and then let's take this over here because we're going to make the cream sauce next.
Look at this stuff. What is this, Gruyere?
Yes.
Look at that.
It's shredded Gruyere cheese.
Shredded Gruyere cheese. And then we have some cream here that has a little piece of root from the celeriac in it.
It must have jumped over from the...
I think it did. Yeah.
Okay, so what we are going to start with here is a couple tablespoons of butter. Now add your cream. You're going to add a half a cup of cream.
I'm going to put all of it in here?
Yes, that's a half a cup of cream.
Okay.
And then you're going to add some garlic. So a small clove of garlic. You don't need a big one because garlic will be very, very pungent. And so that's a small clove. That's actually a half of a large clove.
It is a half, you can see.
Yeah. So go ahead and...
put it in here, and we're going to put it in a press.
Yep.
But you could put it, you can run it on a little microplane if you've got that, or you can just chop it up very fine.
Yeah, if you don't have a garlic press.
Right.
That's fine. You can do it that way too.
Okay, and then we're going to get this all off of here and get it in there.
Okay, and then we talk about, in the recipe, we talk about using saffron, which is, yes, it's a very pricey spice.
Turmeric first?
Turmeric is a completely acceptable substitute. And if you wanted to do a little bit of both, you could do a little bit of both. So we talk about 1/8 of a teaspoon of saffron. So I would do a 1/4 teaspoon. That's a 1/4 teaspoon.
Oh, this is a 1/4 teaspoon, the whole thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Looks
and
like
that's going to give the gratin some beautiful color.
It is, yes.
And then I am going to actually give you, and you can we can take a look here, just a tiny little pinch of ground saffron threads. This is, again, it's optional, but it does give the gratin just a very unusual, unique, wonderful flavor.
Am I going to put the cheese in here?
You only want to do half the cheese.
Okay.
because the other half needs to go on top of the gratin.
Okay.
So scoop about half the cheese in there. This is 1 cup of cheese. And keep enough for the top. There we go.
That's good.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and leave that for the top. And let me clear this. And now mix that really thoroughly.
So, any thoughts about how you would grind your saffron? Because I think this is something that most people don't realize, that it's sort of something you want to do with saffron to release the flavors.
Yeah, mortar and pestle. I mean, clean out your mortar and pestle if you've got other herbs that were in there.
Do you have to put salt in with it, or sugar, or anything like that?
No, you can. You can put a little sugar if you want, just like a pinch of sugar. Not salt. No, absolutely not
because
salt.
it's hard to grind when even in a mortar or pestle.
Well, that's why a few grains of sugar will get the traction going.
Got it. Okay.
So that looks good. Let's warm that up and go ahead and put it on the back burner.
Okay.
And
okay.
So the next thing we're going to do is as your potatoes and your celery root get cooked, you will drain them off, and you're going to want to do rough mash of them. So here we have already cooked boiling hot potato, and I'm going to go ahead and drain that. And
we're going to put it right in here, right?
Yeah, they're going to go right in there, and I'm going to show you the celery root. Also, we have. And that's going to get drained. Now you can start mashing.
Okay. Now, could you do this in a Cuisinart or some kind of a? You don't want to do it in anything like a puree or a Cuisinart.
No,
you want it chunky.
You want it chunky, and you want it. Yeah, you don't put it in a food processor. It'll turn to mush.
Yes, exactly. And here are the two of them together. You can see.
Yeah, they're nice and steamy. And you want to do this while this is warm, because it makes the mashing a little easier. So this is a great point in which you can stop or just once that combination once that's all mashed, you can set it aside and leave it until you're ready to bake it off, and then do your cream sauce and add it and so forth. So this is a good step. At this point, it's good to if you've got other stuff to deal with, if you're doing this for dinner and you got other things to jump on,
you could just put this into a container and stick it in the refrigerator.
You absolutely could.
And is this about enough? I think it is, right? You want more mashing?
No, I want it. That looks good.
Yeah.
How did it feel?
It felt pretty good. Let me grab a spatula so we can really look at it. It's kind of mashed down there.
Did the celery root seem soft enough?
Oh yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. So yes, you can keep it in the fridge if you want overnight or whatever, but definitely get it back up to room temperature before you pour the cream sauce on it. Okay. So
this is going to bake in the oven anyway for another
30 minutes.
30 minutes. So
yeah,
anything that might not be completely cooked is going to
continue to
cook. Okay.
I now have your beautiful cream sauce that is got the melted cheese.
Are you going to put that right in there, or should I?
I'll pour it in, but I want you to go ahead and mix. So you've got your spatula.
Okay.
Stick that in the.
I might use this.
No, you're not.
No, I'm not going to use the masher again?
Nope, you're not using the masher.
Okay, never mind that.
This is about folding in the cream sauce, not mashing the cream sauce.
Oh, got it. Okay. Well, I'm glad we're demonstrating this, because otherwise I would have.
This is your recipe.
Wrong. I know, but it's been years since I've done it. Now that you're doing it, I'm like, why have I not done this recipe?
Oh my God, it's just like melt in your mouth.
I know.
So good.
I know. This is like, I was on a jag of growing celeriac a while back, and it was so great. We had so much celeriac coming out of our ears in the fall, and Can you smell that saffron?
Isn't that amazing?
That's so wonderful.
White pepper. I don't know if you can see my writing on that, but this is white pepper I'm going to add. If you don't have white pepper, just give it a few turns of, fresh ground pepper. But the white pepper is a very different flavoring, very distinct. So we're going to go easy on it. But
it has umami.
It has umami. Listen to her. It does have umami.
Yes, it does. It's like mushrooms almost. The smell of it.
All right.
But anyway, this is wonderful. And look at those strings of cheese already we're seeing. Look at that.
Oh my gosh.
Look how nice and cheesy it already is.
Okay, let me give you a little salt because there's no salt in this except for what is in the cheese, really. And I did not salt the water prior to boiling.
Right.
So
right.
We're going to give it a little salt. And before we turn it into our
colors.
I know, and it's going to be even more beautiful once it's baked. Okay, so I have a little nugget of butter in the bottom of my gratin. This is an 8-inch. You could use a square, obviously, if you want to.
Yeah.
You want to go ahead and do that. Just smear that around the bottom and a little bit on the sides.
You can also use the pastry stuff, the one that comes in a can that you spray on.
What?
No. Oh, I use it all the time.
What? Spray stuff in there, Pam?
No, yeah, like when I'm making cakes. The
stuff with the flour?
Yes.
Oh, God, no.
Okay.
That's so gross.
All right. I use it all the time.
Okay. That goes in there, please.
Baker's Joy, I think it's called.
Baker's Joy?
Uh-huh.
All right, if you say so. Yum.
Now, let's see.
Okay, now you want to smooth that down.
Smooth it down.
And then what we said in the recipe is once it's smooth, you want to drag the tines of a fork across. This is totally optional, but it can give a slight pattern.
Can I stick this in my mouth?
If you want to.
Great.
And then I'm going to finish it off with the rest of the cheese.
That is so good.
Yeah, and as I said, I mean, the saffron really adds something, but don't break the bank trying to, buying a bunch of expensive saffron if you're only going to use it for this. But it is, I love it with. Okay, this is going to go in the oven now for about 30 to 40 minutes. You want to get the one that we have already completed?
Oh, yeah.
So you will see after it's been cooking for about, you want it to be golden brown and bubbly and.
Like this. Like this.
Yum. Yum, yum, yum. And so this will go into our oven. Step back, my darling, so I can get that going. All right. And
the oven door opened and there was a wonderful waft of apples coming out of it.
Yeah, well, that'll be
doing our dessert.
Next thing. And let's maybe take a dip in there so we can see what it looks like.
Well, if I
get you a spoon.
Yeah, we can use that one.
And then I'm sure there are lots of questions. We will switch back to our twin faces and then be able to field any questions. Ooh, look at that. So it's held very nicely. It comes together almost pudding-like, right? I mean, you can see
it looks like corn pudding.
Corn pudding, you think?
Well, it does, but it looks wonderful.
Yeah, it does. It really looks quite delicious.
Mm.
Okay.
It is.
So, yum. Any questions?
Yes. So people are asking a little bit about substitutions. So could you use some other root vegetables or rutabaga or fennel specifically in this dish?
Fennel I think would be very nice, but you probably are going to want to give it a good cooking beforehand. You can't put it in. You can't. You're going to have to.
I wouldn't do a full amount of a whole pound of fennel. I think that might be a little dominant. But fennel and celery are usually often interchangeable.
Yeah, the difference is it's going to be a different texture because it won't come out more like a mash. It'll come out with that fennel fiber in it, which is fine, but it'll be quite a different one. I would say rutabaga.
Rutabaga, definitely.
And turnip. If you love turnips,
Yeah.
that would be great. It's
Turnip
a very
and potato,
close,
Turnip.
very close relative to celery. I mean, you might wonder why we don't just put celery in it, but the same issue goes with the celery as it would with the fennel, which is that it introduces a kind of a fibrous thing to it that doesn't really. It's better I think it's better if you stay away from that type of thing. But try it and see if it works for you.
Let me think. What other?
Oh, you could use squash, butternut squash.
Oh, yeah, any of the winter squashes, or even a hardier one like kaboka is a little sturdier. It's a little drier.
Mm-hmm.
You could do a combination potato and kaboka.
Yeah, I think
parsnip.
Oh, yeah, that would be wonderful. Yeah, and I think the underlying one is good. A couple of good potatoes like we did. You want to get those in there.
So do you have to use the Yukons, or are there other varieties of potatoes you could also use if you couldn't find Yukons?
No, I love the Yukon because it has this very buttery flavor to it. But you could use regular russet potatoes.
Use the potatoes you grow in your garden, whatever they are. No, you can find them at the farmer's market. Just a good potato.
Yeah. Great. What if you are vegan or have dairy issues? Is there a way to make this without any sort of cream or cheese?
It is. There is. In fact, you can go a couple different directions. You can replace the cream by making like a cashew cream, which would mean soaking cashews in hot water and then putting them through the food processor. There are homemade cream substitutes for that. And then you wouldn't have the actual cheesy part of it, but you would get a creamy part by doing a cashew cream.
You know what you can do also, quite honestly, is to use a vegetable broth.
So that was my next suggestion.
Oh, good for you.
My next suggestion was just cutting out the dairy entirely, and then sort of doing folding in you could warm your vegetable broth, infuse your seasonings in your garlic, and bake it off. And I think one of the nicest substitutes for cheese topping is caramelized onion.
Oh, yeah.
So you would do that and then put caramelized onion on the top and bake it off. It will have consistency-wise, it will come up just like it does with the cream. Don't overdo. Would I do the equal amounts? I would probably do a little bit more vegetable broth than cream, because the cream and the cheese really, that really expands when it's baking, and it really gets into there. You don't want a soupy gratin, right? No. I would say 1/2 to 3/4 of a cup of broth instead.
And you could put breadcrumbs on top.
Yeah, you could do some toasted, like panko, put a little olive oil in the panko, and that's a great way. Yeah, breadcrumb topping.
With parsley and some herbal seasoning.
Or caramelized onions.
Yes, exactly. Both would be very nice.
Or just one.
Yes. Other questions?
Someone's asking if they can use naturism yeast to add to the creamy flavor.
Nutritional yeast?
Nutritional. Maybe that's what they meant. Yes. Nutritional yeast. Can they use nutritional yeast to add to the creamy flavor? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's a great ingredient to have on hand to get that cheesy flavor. Absolutely. Yes.
You could basically use it as a substitute for the cheese. You'll have to what about amounts? You probably wouldn't want to put a whole cup of that in there.
Nutritional yeast?
Yeah.
No. A couple tablespoons.
Okay.
Yeah. And also full of B vitamins, very nutritious. That's why it's nutritional yeast.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I think that's it for now. If you'd like to jump into the delicious apple smell that Adrienne was smelling earlier and head into the next recipe.
Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is our ginger snap our apple cranberry ginger snap crumble. Woo! This is a keeper. And if it's amazing with like serving this with like a ginger ice cream.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Oh my God, Jenny's.
So you know you get that double triple wham of ginger everywhere. So great recipe, very colorful, very pretty. And we will go ahead and take another look from our overhead camera as we bring in all the great ingredients for that. So we've got.
There's nothing left.
There's nothing left. There are apples here. I want you to let's flip our cutting board since we had other things that were not sweet on there. And we're going to need to start by slicing up these apples. And the way I want those done, no peel, folks. I mean, peeling is optional, but I really think that it's not necessary for this. And because these are Honeycrisp is what I'm using, and they are so good, so fresh, and very organic. So I would say no peel.
You mean don't peel. Not no peel, but don't peel.
Yeah, isn't that what that means?
We want the peel on.
Keep the peel on.
Yes.
And no peel, don't peel. And we're going to actually do this into slices. We're not going to do these into chunks. So we're taking the kind of the quick way of coring the apple by just cutting the core from the out and into a sort of a rectangle. And
I think I left a little bit in here, so I'm going to have to
the slices I want about maybe 1/4 of an inch.
Oh, you want them a little thicker?
Yeah, okay. I don't want them really, really thin. They don't need to be thin because you want a nice
yeah. Otherwise, if they're paper thin, they're just gonna kind of melt.
Right. Yeah, exactly. They melt and then they're all floppy and they're not that great. So,
this is good.
So this recipe is gonna feed plenty. It's gonna feed easily 8 people or 10 people. But you can totally double it, or if you double it, you're gonna need to go into 2 large pans. We're doing this. Okay. We've got sort of almost a half amount here that you and I are doing, Adrienne. So we're going to put it in a smaller pan. But so there's a couple steps to this. We've got the apples that are going to go in with the cranberries, and then we're going to do a pre-bake for about 20-25 minutes. And then you pull it out of the oven once the apples, and you do need to take that step. You need to get the apples a little bit soft before you add the
cranberries.
No, before you add the ginger snap topping.
Oh, yeah, right.
Okay. So they're my slices.
But we put the cranberries in at the beginning.
Yeah. You're going to see.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll see. So I want to get, are your apples done? Okay, Let me just take over your spot here for a second because I want to do the cranberries. And for that, I'm using, you can hand chop them, but I'm actually going to use a food processor for this, the mini food processor. These are fresh cranberries. What a great way to start using our fall, our seasonal fruits. These are fresh cranberries. You can use frozen cranberries. If you use frozen, I would go ahead and use them frozen straight into the food processor. The other thing you can do is use dried cranberries, but not, if you use the sweetened dried cranberries, you have to be mindful of the amount of sugar you're adding into this. But the nice thing with these is, they're sour, they're very tart. You have a good control on how much sugar you're going to put into it. The dried cranberries are good if you can get some, and they're available, unsweetened dried cranberries. What I have done is I've done it with that, and I've soaked the cranberries just in warm water, just briefly, and then rough chop them all in the food processor.
And I have to say that go ahead. Sorry, I'll say it after you.
Okay, let me just do this right quick.
Using fresh cranberry rather than dried cranberry also adds the juices. They're really important to sort of get all this, the right consistency. And so you'd be missing that out if if you use the dry cranberries. I think, in my personal opinion, I think that a little bit of fresh cranberry, as you're doing right now, is the ideal way to do it.
I totally agree.
Good.
Oh, good. We agree. Not only that, but what a burst of antioxidants and vitamin C.
My God,
yeah. Okay.
It's so pretty.
Gorgeous. Gorgeous colors. Okay, so we're going to put that in there. And then, Adrienne, you're going to step up here and take the helm for the first part of the mix, which is going to be this. So here we have, okay, so I know your recipe says to mix all the sugars and everything in a large bowl and then add your sliced apples. That's fine. But what we're going to actually do a little bit of the reverse because we got all this prepped up, quickly. So what we're going to do here is go ahead and add into our bowl. You're going to mix white sugar and brown sugar.
White sugar first.
Yeah, it's all going to get mixed together.
I know.
And
then
now
brown sugar.
Yep.
And we're using the light brown sugar?
No, this is dark brown sugar.
This is dark brown sugar.
Yeah, it doesn't look it, but
I know.
It actually is dark brown sugar.
Dark brown sugar's gotten lighter and lighter.
Is that right?
I think so.
They're taking the
and
molasses
then this is
out. So a couple tablespoons of cornstarch or arrowroot. This is actually arrowroot. And that goes in. And then our spice lineup, which can you please put that close to the camera so everybody can see? Up. Bring it up.
Up.
Yeah. So we've got cinnamon, ginger, and
cinnamon, and
nutmeg.
Nutmeg. Okay.
Yes.
And what about cardamom?
That's going to go in the next go round.
Oh, okay.
Cardamom is key in ginger snaps. Okay.
And this is fresh nutmeg that you grated, right?
No,
Oh,
no, I'm not that.
Okay, we're going to put them all in there.
Mix. Mix really well. And
I do like the fresh nutmeg. I again, that's something else that I think is great when you're using nutmeg. The nutmeg, the flavoring of some of these spices like cardamom and nutmeg can really disappear after it's grated. So check your nutmeg, make sure it's got plenty of flavor.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say that
I'm going to do this with our fingers.
Yeah, I don't know why you're taking all day. My goodness, we don't have all day. I do use. I am a big fan of Penzeys, and I think their spices hold up really beautifully.
Yeah, right. You get small amounts, and you can keep them going. But anyway, either way, whether you have whole or ground, goes in here.
Yep. I wouldn't worry too much about the sugar because it's going to melt. It's going to cook down.
Oh, good. So should I mix this first and then put this in?
It doesn't matter. It's all going to get mixed. Okay. You've got a good wooden spoon. That might be a little easier than your little spatula, but your call.
Okay, here we go. We got the apples, the cranberries. Everybody see that? And now we're going to put this on top.
Mix, mix, mix. And so, as I said, this will go into your hot oven, 375, I believe is what I delineated. Yes, 375 for about 20 minutes.
And we're not worrying too much about how beautiful the apples are going to look when they go into. We're not going to arrange them. We're just going to put them right in.
No. This is one of these. You got a bunch of people coming or over, and you've got other stuff to deal with this time of year, right?
So first thing in the morning for breakfast.
And
you just want to do it.
We are not pastry chefs. We are just good, solid home cooks here. That's what we want. Okay.
All right.
Beautiful. So go ahead and put it into our pan.
Okay. I'm just going to do it just like this. Lean over.
Nice job. And there's probably going to be a bunch of cranberry at the bottom.
Yep.
So you want to just go ahead and
put it right on top.
Don't.
Here, let's do it this way. I think I can probably do a better job. There we go.
Nice.
All right, now
All right, and then a
this out.
nice little secret ingredient before we start the baking. I'm going to drizzle just a tiny bit of fresh squeezed lemon juice that I've got on top. And we're going to dot this with a tablespoon of butter. So I've got a tablespoon of little cubed butter. So this will go into the oven for a few minutes. And while that is baking off, so step one, that is baking off, we are going to mix our next set of ingredients, which consists of the actual ginger snap mixture. And, you know, you might think about, well, ginger snaps, why don't I just take a shortcut and get a nice bag of ginger snaps and crush them and just mix them with a little butter and sprinkle that on top. And I will tell you that you don't want to do that because this combination, what you want is that real crumble, right? So it's the texture that we're after as well as the flavor. So you really do want to mix your own ginger snap combination. So with that, let me actually get Adrienne. Why don't you step in and do this for me, and I will help you with the wet ingredients. So you've got flour, add your brown sugar. Go ahead.
Again.
Yep.
The same. Let's do this. Let's do this one. There we go. Okay.
And then you have a lovely combination. Again, why don't we just let everybody see? I've already pre-measured all these because there's so many different, there's a lot of spices that go into this.
So we've got ginger here.
Yes.
This is salt.
Yes.
And over here is the one, the dark brown
cinnamon.
One. Cinnamon, right? And this is cardamom.
Yep. And in the middle, cloves.
Cloves. Okay, there we go. All right, so we're just going to put them
those are really the baseline seasonings to a ginger snap.
Yes, and it smells so good.
Yeah. Yeah. So mix those in. And then I'm going to give you a little bit of lemon zest. Just because, I mean, this adds a nice, really nice.
It brightens it up.
Exactly.
It's like a little sunshine in the apples.
A little sunshine in the apples. And then the wet ingredients.
Okay.
Which I'm going to have to just jump over here and warm that up a little bit.
Okay. We're just going to put a little butter in here, aren't we?
We're going to do that and a tablespoon of molasses. So why don't you go ahead and get a tablespoon of molasses in there.
Thank you.
Spoon.
Woo, look at that. Oh, I love the smell of molasses.
All of it is, yeah. Get every last little drop out there with your finger because you're going to go in and start mixing this with your fingers in a second.
Oh, am I really? What fun.
And what I like to do with this, Adrienne, I don't know if you haven't done this one before, but I like to switch over and use the spatula for a bit, okay?
Okay.
And here, you need a towel?
Thank you. I'm getting it all over the
That's okay.
counter.
Okay, now mix that as best you can with the spatula, and then you're going to have to get in there with your fingers and really make some nice, really bind it, okay?
All right.
All right, and now I'm going to show you we have one that's already been baked off for the 25 minutes. So I'm going to bring that out. Be careful. That's why you were saying that the whole house smells like apples. Okay, so we have one that's already baked off, and visually you can see there's some juices that are accumulating in the corner here.
Yeah.
Yeah. But once that extra sugar and that whole butter gets in there, back into the pan, it'll just really, really thicken things up and create a gorgeous caramelized finished product. So this is.
Should I just start sprinkling it on now?
No, Not to really sprinkle. What I like to do is to make like little, kind of like little towers of it.
Okay.
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 Let's work on that. Go ahead and do that so that you don't want any, some crumbles you can just dump the stuff on there and but this you want to get like, just envision like you're eating
cookie doughs.
Exactly. You're eating a bite of ginger snap with a nice, yummy, sweet, tart combo of the cranberry and apple. And you do want to get in the corners.
Okay.
And I like to just like press it in just a little bit. And leave no apple uncovered. No stone unturned, no apple uncovered. Smells that molasses too. It's so good in it, right?
Yeah, the molasses really gives it a nice texture as well.
It's going to go back in a hot oven again and get finished off. And if the crumble part starts looking a little brown, you're going to want to cover it loosely with foil. But I have actually not had an issue with that. And
how long does this go in for?
Another half hour.
So I don't think you're going to have a real issue with it being too brown. Now, half an hour is not that long.
No, it isn't. It isn't.
Okay, we've got a whole empty spread here.
I know, and look what's coming out when it's all done. Now the recipe makes 8 this large size, right? This 11 by 8 by 13, whatever the standard pan size is, and you can see from
9 by 13 or 10 by 13.
Yeah, the beautiful red cranberries coming through here. So let's have a close-up look at that. I will get us a plate and
another spoon.
And another spoon.
You're going to do the honors?
No, you're going to do the honors.
Look at that pretty plate.
You're going to do the honors.
Okay. This is what happens when I come over to Danielle's honors. She puts me to work.
Well, that's what it's all about.
That is. Look at that. Look at the
So we have a really pretty gratin.
Here underneath is the apple and the cranberry, and look at these apple slices. They're perfect.
And here, look, just to top it off.
Oh, this is my favorite. I like this better than ice cream.
Whipped cream, unsweetened whipped cream.
Yeah, that's really the ideal.
Unsweetened whipped cream.
That is perfect. So there we are.
Oh, man.
And that's sweet.
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yummy, yummy, yummy. Questions? We're going to
go back. Those both look amazing. Wow.
Where's the other? Oh, there's the other one.
Yes, here's our.
Yes.
Beautiful colors, beautiful flavors, great use of fall ingredients. So let's field some questions and do a little chatting from our participants. What can we?
Yeah. So one person found some Lucy apples that were red on the inside. They said they tasted a lot like Honeycrisp and berries in terms of flavor profile, and they were wondering if they could use those. They thought the red on the inside might be an interesting touch.
I think it would be wonderful if it's a firm apple, firm enough that it'll hold up to baking. Then yes, I would totally. And you can do a combination of apples, of course. I picked the Honeycrisp because I love them, but you could do a combination of a couple different ones. Are you going to just eat or are you going to talk?
Yeah, so good. So good. All right. Reluctantly, I'm putting it down.
Another person wanted to know if they could use coconut sugar in the recipe.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
And what about making the crumble in advance and freezing it? Is that something that could be done?
You could totally do that. And the reason is it doesn't have any leavening agents in it. So you could freeze it. You could even just keep it in a Tupperware for, a few days. And again, actually that would be good because the it'll make the grabbing the little clusters very easy if it's cold. If it's colder, you'll get, nicer clusters, or maybe not nicer, but just very
they
easy.
really held up very nicely over this one. You can see that they really are little clusters of topping.
Yeah. I mean, it's we don't, we're doing our best to show you through the camera, but when you're in person at it's like little mountain peaks in there. Mm-hmm.
The Rockies.
Oh man, the delicious Rockies there for sure.
Edible Rockies.
Yeah. So we had someone wondering if they could add oatmeal to the apple cranberry recipe.
Yeah, you can, but one of the things I like about this is that there's a lot of crumbles out there that you associate that really start with oatmeal. There's nothing wrong with that. It will come off to me more as a more breakfasty thing, whereas this strikes me as really a nice after meal desserty thing.
Yeah.
But it
doesn't need it.
It doesn't need it. No. Exactly. It doesn't need it, but you could.
Or nuts. You could put nuts in. That might be nice. Like nut meats from walnut meats. Mix that in with
or pecan.
Or pecans. Yep. Little ones that have been crumbled.
Yeah, not big.
Yeah, bits. Right.
We had a question about the unsweetened whipped cream. Do you have any additional ingredients with that, like vanilla?
I do not. I just got some good organic heavy cream and whipped it until it was stiff and keep it in the refrigerator.
I've been doing that a lot lately with desserts. It's I don't know if it's better for you, but there's less sugar that you intake if you just do it.
Well, it's a lot less than the ready to go.
Oh yeah, and ice cream. Ice cream is full of sugar too. So
yeah, but this isn't.
No, but my point is that it's nice to have the cream unsweetened and unflavored.
I agree. It kind of cuts the sweetness.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Could you substitute something else for the cranberries if you didn't like fresh or dried cranberries in this recipe?
You could do this without the cranberries, but let's just think. You could use another dried fruit. I guess apricots are going to be too sweet.
Yeah.
Dates aren't the right combination. You could do currants.
Yeah, that would be nice. Actually,
currants would be good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You could also mix pears in with this.
Okay, nice. I was wondering if there were specific apple varieties that you prefer over others. We had the Lucy question earlier, but if there are types that you gravitate towards for this recipe.
I've had good luck with quartz this year. I've actually used those CORTS, and their flavor is really wonderful. It really woke me up to a new flavor of apple, and I've been using them in tarte tatin. The one that you do when you basically do it. It's like an upside down pineapple cake, but it's a tart, and they came out really, really well. They held up beautifully. I used halves, and they didn't flop. They didn't fall apart.
Do you know where they're out of? Quartz?
It's a fairly
new variety.
No. It's an old variety, and it's I've seen them around. So I mean, there's so many varieties of apples that it's they're just I just look for them, and I've got them at my farmer's market.
The one that I've been enjoying as well as an eating apple, but also as a cooking apple, is Crimson Crisp.
Oh yeah,
okay. Yeah. So it's true. There are so many varieties. I think if you talk to if you're finding unusual varieties, you're probably in a market. I would say farmer's market, because the grocery store carries the regular ones,
Yeah, they probably have about a dozen though, even at the grocery store.
Yeah, but I would stay away from like a Red Delicious or a Golden Delicious. Those are too soft for this. You want something that's
they're supposed to be an all-purpose apple.
I know, but I find that the Honey Crisps, which are everywhere now, that's a great option. The quartz, Fuji would be good. Gallo would be good.
Yeah, Gallos are great. Gallos are very good. So yeah, I mean, I think that just just try different ones. You don't stick with one.
Or a combination, Granny Smith
exactly.
with something too.
Yeah. Right.
Fantastic. There was a request for you to show another close-up of the crumble, if you could do that.
A close-up of the crumble.
Let me switch cameras real quick because the overhead camera is actually a clearer one than the other one. So try to get it
under the. That looks great.
Also from where you cut into it, because that's shows you the sort of the pinky runoff from the cranberries, and then there's a good amount of pink in there, or the red from the cranberries. Yeah.
All right, I have a gratin question. You all had a discussion over folding in the sauce versus mashing it. And is there a reason why you were so adamant not to mash versus folding it in?
Yes, because it's a chemical reaction with the dairy. And it's like when you make mashed potatoes, if you put too much milk or cream in there, they get really gluey and gloopy. We don't want that with this. So my concern was getting the masher in there is going to, break those fat molecules into a more gluey consistency. Whereas if you just fold, you're just gently folding the cream in there, and you leave it alone at that point and get it into your pan and then bake it off.
Anytime you overwork potatoes, you really run into the possibility that they're going to get that gooiness, that gluiness.
Yeah,
it's not gooey so much as gluey. You're right.
But it comes into contact with the fat component.
Yeah,
is what it will do that.
So awesome. You're getting so much love in the chat right now, and I'm sure you've seen some of those hearts and things floating up as well. So this has been amazing. People seem to really be enjoying the program. So thank you very much. Yeah.
We're delighted to bring this to you guys. So share, right? And
yes.